All right, if you can't see because of my shoulder, just remind me from time to time and I will move out of the way. First thing I always do is like stick something under my head. Why is that important? Yeah. Make sure that you detack the paper, else it will rip the board. So I always like stick it on my shirt. Okay, that's the tape. Did I say paper? The tape. Because if you don't, it will rip the paper and it's going to leave a residue on the paper. So, you know, always have like something like this underneath your hand so you're not touching it. Very first step I want to do is a number 4 or a number 5 Nero. So the Nero pencils are the only thing you can put in this pencil sharpener. The Nero pencils. Do not put charcoal. We've already broken two sharpeners in the last 2 semesters. So these are really expensive sharpeners. I get them because they're very fast and they're very strong. So all you need to do is, it takes 2 seconds, okay? And it will be sharp, all right? It doesn't have a stopping point. It will just eat your pencil. So just know that as soon as it gets loose, it's sharp. Just pull it up, okay? First thing I want to do is just take my image, and I'm going to tape it up here so you guys can see it. And then we'll stop after this step and I'll give you guys a little break. I want to move it as close to my face as I can. So I like to fold it or get it as close as I can. And then all I want to do is lay in all of her shadow shapes. Okay, so that's kind of the goal of this step. You guys get that? Do you want me to turn off the music or are you guys okay? Okay. All right, and I move pretty quick. You'll see I'm not rendering at this stage, and I think a lot of students kind of get obsessed with this stage, and they think that they need to like render everything. I'm gonna hold it so it doesn't shake.
Draw lightly, don't render.
Draw lightly.
Charcoal will not stick.
Don't use charcoal. We are using a Nero number 5 pencil, yes. Make sure that you are not touching your drawing like I am. I just don't want my drawing board to bounce. So even though I do move fairly slow, I am very methodical about how I am applying my value.
You just do one value at this point?
Just one value. I want it to be as brainless as possible. Unless I see something really significant that I need to understand the separation for, I only draw one value.
What might be an example of that really extreme?
I think for students, it's usually eyeballs, nostrils, like the center of the mouth. Like those types of landmarks are important, like maybe the ear, because they don't want to lose that anatomy. And I'll probably do it on the ear. And I tend to hold my pencil like a little bit farther out than most people when I'm first starting because it forces me not to focus on detail. So like little things like that, I think I've gotten used to like doing, and I've realized, oh, I have to tell students this because like they're not gonna realize that just something stupid like that makes a big difference. So like where you hold a pencil or how you hold an angle, is an important thing. So I don't want it to be too light where I can't see it, because as soon as I put charcoal on this, it's going to get destroyed. I just want it to hold enough value that I can understand the form. So this is one of the reasons why I don't draw too much hair in, because the hair comes at that secondary stage. And I threw out 2 demos in the back there that are very like hair heavy. One of Kelsey and one of my daughters is very light, so you can see like the early stages. And if you see my daughter's hair, they both have like crazy freaking hair. So it's actually like a big challenge for me to always like work on hair and understand the textures and things like that. And I think when you're doing a drawing like this, it really is understanding how to balance textural relationships between clothing, skin, and hair, because that is what really kind of helps develop realism in a lot of ways. Kelsey has a really strong nasal bone, so I'm gonna just draw right along that core shadow. And if you don't feel comfortable doing this, just know that like I'm using the side of my pencil like I would charcoal, and I'm being very attentive to like details. So like if I want to right now, I could say, hey, I don't want to lose this nostril, so with just a little bit more pressure, I'm gonna put that nostril in. And I don't want to lose this second one over here. So I'm just gonna put it in. I'm gonna re-establish this like shadow line. And I'm just gonna come in and with same way I would do it with charcoal pencil. And I wanna move my pencil in one linear direction. And for whatever reason, people think final project and they start freaking out, and this is really hard for students to do. But just trust your instinct, everything that we've learned. I know it's questionable with me as a teacher, like, did we learn anything? But if you did learn anything, just one value is really all you need to get your drawing started. I'm gonna leave a little light right there because I know that light's gonna be closed off and there's a little reflected light. I'm gonna close it. I undecided to do that, so.
Do you also like change the direction of like how you're drawing to not lose the form?
You're gonna see in a drawing like this, oh my arms, that I don't change the direction for the whole thing. It's always gonna be like up or down or left or right. It's just habit,
Okay.
but it's also, I think, important to keep consistency and to limit the amount of disturbance happening with a pencil. If I'm going for something that's really about just making it look real. If I want like my marks to be in there, I'm much more fluid, and I have like really strong marks. Like, I will not hesitate to draw like a really hard line. But at this stage, I want to keep it fairly simple. Thank you. But if you trust the photo reference, if you have good photo reference and you trust it, it should look like the person, even in like a really simple value breakdown. And if I want to, like, I can once again just come in here and like, just come in. And I don't want to overdraw. If you do push too hard with your Nero, which is what I mean by overdrawing, and you put a lot of pressure. The Nero is a wax pencil, right? This works differently than charcoal, and wax and charcoal do not mix. The reason we use Nero pencils is because they allow you to make really, really soft transitions. But they are not like the core drawing tool when we're drawing on, when we're making a charcoal drawing, okay? Now with the Duralar, it's a little bit of a different issue. The Duralar is a lot more resistant, and the dominant pencil I was using was the Nero pencil, so that's why I wanted to like test it when I got home.
You said on the Duralar you're using the Nero?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you look at the demo, you'll actually see the marks. I left them really evident just so that they weren't like hiding.
Is all that white from the ink? All the white is from the ink? There's no like white Nero?
Mm-mm. It's just white ink. It's not that much either, it's very little. So I want to like make sure I don't lose the anatomy underneath her chin, because there's a highlight. I'm gonna leave this open right here, and I'm actually gonna make a very specific line, even though it's not there in the drawing. And then this is where value will come into play, and I'll be very articulate with the value here. And I wanna make sure like the ridge that I'm making is very clear. I can throw out anatomical landmarks, but you guys know them. Like, I'm trying to make sure that her jawline is separate from her neckline. So if I do want to have two values, what I do is I first draw the darker value, like here in the ear. All right, and then I just smash that darker value on top and do the ear, okay? So that's kind of how you do it, all right? That is a specific, like, technical thing. I'm happy to, like, explain that. So you can see, like, I'm not render happy. I'm not trying to, like, take my time. I'm trying to be specific, right? I want it to look like my model. If you do a transfer correctly, that's 50% of the work. The other 50% of the work is just making those observations when you're ready to transfer. I'm gonna leave that little bit of a light, just so I know that there's a separation right there. And then you can see the hair is getting a little bit darker because I want that line to kind of split between the neck and the hair very clearly. I'm gonna do the rest of her forehead. See, like, I'm gonna move this piece of paper around all the time. Really important edge is where the hair hits the top of the ear and how it crosses. I'm just gonna smash this value in. Okay, and that's really all I need. And then I want to make sure that I don't leave this big white open space because there is value there and it will be inconsistent. So I'm gonna put in her eyebrow first just so I don't lose that anatomy. And then
Yeah, why specifically the darkest first? Why?
easier. If I was to draw this on top, right, I'm gonna lose that line. Won't see where the eyebrow is. So if I go from dark to light, I can delineate where those, like, really crazy shapes are first, and then put a value on top of those shapes, but the value is gonna hold those shapes. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Does everyone understand what Yvuz was asking? I think it's an important question. So it's a lot harder for me to go back in like this and be like, oh wait, where is that, like, jawline? It's like right here. I can do it because I have a lot of experience drawing, but for somebody who's new to drawing, I would always say use your lines to your advantage first. Don't try to come in here and, like, find your eyeball and be like, well, I want to draw this darker, because now you're drawing it with all your tracing gone. And then you're gonna be like, Joe, can you help me? I'll be like, sure. But this is a lot harder to do after the fact. I would do it first, okay? Does that make sense? Okay. All right, so her face is, like, pretty much exactly where I want it. Not a lot of detail, right? Very specific, and specificity is really what's gonna give you your likeness, right? It doesn't have to be rendered. And so many, I was a student who thought, oh, I can draw better than anybody because I can do details. It took me 20 years to figure out details were important, but not as important as form. And that's what I really want to, like, teach you guys. If you can see your shapes and you can see them clearly, that is the more important aspect of a drawing. And then you'll learn how to do details anyway, because you're going to slow down. And really, rendering is just about, it's a term that references speed. It means that I am drawing at a much slower pace than I would be drawing in a regular classroom. Whereas when I think about the word drawing, or the term drawing, it is usually like in reference to like recording information that you see in front of you. It could be from a photo or from life or whatever, but there's a very big difference between like a rendering and like photo, rendering and a drawing. So the Nero is like really resilient. It will, if I use it correctly, if I don't put too much pressure, it will completely wipe away. If I draw really, really hard, it will resist that effort to wipe away, and I can always see these lines and still go over them with different materials. And that's why I like these pencils. They are wax. They're like a slightly softer Prismacolor pencil. And the reason we use them is because they're the same hue and value as charcoal pencils. Whereas if I was to think about like a graphite pencil, is a graphite pencil warm or cool? It is cool. Graphite pencil is like a blue-gray. If you look at the Nero pencil, it's like a brown-gray, okay? And that's what we want, because the charcoal is gonna always be warm, okay? No matter what, all right? Let's take a quick 5. I'll take a picture of this. We'll push pause. You want to push pause right there?
It's real up close and personal.
Okay. Next step is charcoal dust. The charcoal dust step is a little bit tricky. There's a couple of concepts I want to talk about. So let's talk about those steps. So you'll notice there's a newsprint on the tabourets. Anytime we're drawing in class, you're going to see a stack of newsprint. Always grab a sheet of newsprint and put it on tabourets, or else they're just going to get ridiculously messed up. And they're already messed up as it is, so we want to try and keep them intact. The charcoal dust is a little bit tricky. Can you hand me that orange box? Yeah, thank you. It's not like super tricky, but there are some specifics. The one thing is the way that you point the X-Acto knife matters when we're making charcoal dust. And we always make our own charcoal dust. Don't buy charcoal dust, thank you. Because the charcoal dust in packages will get humid, and it will start to get moisture, and then it will not act and work in the way that you want it to work. But you want to hold your X-Acto knife up in space, kind of like this, right? See? Like this, right? And then I want to like shave downward, okay? So, I don't know, where's this? Camera's like way up here. So I want to like shave downward, like this direction.
Are you using the back side of the X-Acto or the
No,
sharp side?
front side of the X-Acto, but it needs to be pointing up.
Okay.
If I point it down, what's gonna happen? It's gonna make flakes. And those flakes are gonna make lines on your drawing, okay? That's why we don't do that. Because you will end up with like stripies that look like that, okay? Does everyone kind of see that? Here, I'll show you. If I just put my finger in them, you're gonna end up with stripies. Whee! And they'll do that, okay? Like random lines that you can't control, okay? So you always, one more time, X-Acto pointed up, right? And I wanna like shave down, okay? So I'm gonna make a whole bunch of charcoal dust. I don't really need to make too much, but I'll make enough. If you guys wanna like point the camera here. So first step is what? Nero, number 4, number 5 pencil, okay? What are you laying in? Just your shadow shapes. How many values do you need? 1, no more than 2, okay? Keep it simple. You notice when I'm making charcoal dust, I'm actually rotating my charcoal stick. You get Ashley. The reason I do that is because I don't want the charcoal stick to break, right? It's gonna start bowing if I use one charcoal stick too much. I'll just leave it here. The other thing we're gonna do is grab paper towels. I think my paper towels are in that bag right there. They're there. Ah, okay. And these are always gonna be out here. And there's a way that I like to fold paper towels. If you have your own way of folding it, it's fine. But the key is you need a flat surface. If you don't have a flat surface, you're never gonna be able to make consistent values. So in half, like a hamburger, right? I think that's right, like hamburger? Or is it hot dog? A hot dog?
That's hot dog.
Hot dog?
You just did that.
And then hot dog again, right? So it's long, okay? This is, camera's right. There. All right, like that, okay? And then I want to fold it in half, okay? So like that, right? Like that. Is it right there?
Yeah.
Is it kind of right there? All right. And then after that, I want to take my fingers and put it into the paper towels. And then I make like a little flat. So it looks like that, okay? My camera. Whee! Okay, that way I have like something to hold it with, okay? And this is a really smooth paper towel. We want to use this because it's like not going to create any textures in the paper. Okay. I grabbed 2 sheets of paper towels, just FYI. The only person taking notes is James. Thank you, James, for being responsible. All you people.
Third time.
Or else you're gonna have to like watch this whole video to figure out exactly what I was talking about.
We'll just take a picture of that.
Yeah. Don't let them. Don't let them.
Oh my god.
Just all chase after.
So I'm gonna take this little doohickey right here, and I'm going to I'm gonna rub it in the charcoal dust, and then I'm gonna wipe it directly on my drawing. Right? That's what I want to do. What's gonna happen if I take this and wipe it on my drawing? You will ruin the first 20-30 minutes of work that you did. Okay? Don't do that. If you're transferring, no.
Don't dare you.
So I take this paper towel and I break it down. This is why we have newsprint. I break it down on the newsprint until it gets to be like a light misty gray. It should not be dark at all. There's actually a big chunk of charcoal in there. So I use the newsprint to actually like mark off when it's ready. And I also look at my model. My model is a white person, okay? Yes, I'm being very specific. What does that mean? Light, okay? She does not need to have like very, very dark values on her surface. So all I'm using it for is to like start off that value system, okay? And I will tell you, I didn't use charcoal dust in the Duralar. I just actually took Vine charcoal and just used my finger because the Duralar doesn't hold fingerprints, so it's actually a little bit easier. But this will hold fingerprints, so I want to keep my hands off of it. And I'm going to test my charcoal over here. And you can see it's still a little bit stripy. So I always have like scrap paper that is the paper that I'm actually using to draw with. And I will like use that until I'm like, there it goes, it gets smooth, okay? And then I can go over it and very, very lightly, I don't know why everyone feels like they need to use a lot of pressure, because it will draw value into the pores of the paper very quick. And this is probably the most important step. I did not put any pressure on it. I did not dip it into the charcoal and throw it onto my paper. I made sure that this was prepared before I even touched my drawing, okay? Then I will never screw up this step, all right? No stripes, no like splotches, no value crazies that you can't control. And now all I gotta do is erase, okay? So I've just taken and put like 3 values onto her with very quick step, okay? But this step, a lot of people screw up and a lot of people freak out about. It's not that hard really, but just FYI. Make sure you prep accordingly. Does anybody have any questions about that?
Yeah, where in the world do you get that kind of paper towel?
This is at Walmart. It's a shop towel. Yeah, these are just shop towels. They're the towels that they use on cars to clean them. Yeah. But they're gonna be here in the studio. We bought them, so don't worry. And you will keep this with you. When you make one of these, you just keep it with you the whole semester, okay? Don't throw them away. All right, this is probably like 3 years old, no joke. Yeah. And you can see it's actually changed color. But I will still use it. I actually like the older ones better than the newer ones. All right. So the first thing that I want to do when I've got to the step is pick up 2 erasers. I use my kneaded and my electric, okay? If you don't have an electric eraser, you don't need one. You can just use a white eraser, or you can just use the kneaded. But I like to use both. And I'm gonna stick her face as close to that as possible. And I'm gonna stick this right in my way. And I'm gonna start getting rid of all my lights. Why the lights? Why do I want to erase the lights first? Anyone know?
Those become lighter.
Yeah, because you can never really clean up a white piece of paper multiple times because it's gonna start getting stained by the charcoal. So if I do this at this step, right, very early in the drawing process, I am preserving my paper And I always sharpen my eraser before I use it. So I'll just like hold it onto the page, make sure it's completely white, and then sharpen it. And I'll just like hit these like really quick white areas. And I usually have like a little paintbrush that I forgot that I will use to like dust it off. You know, I don't like blowing everywhere. So I'm just gonna use this piece of paper. Just. All right. So notice I'm just trying to hit the whitest whites. If you're not familiar with how to use an electric eraser, it kicks back a little bit. It wants to move very fast. So you can't tell, but I'm holding it very, very stiff.
Should we first go electric, then?
I am because of her portrait. Her portrait has like
It doesn't
really high
matter.
key, doesn't matter, but her portrait has really high key whites. Her face is mostly gray, so I'm actually not gonna erase most of this. I don't need to do anything really. It's actually working to my advantage. There's like a light there. There's a light there. And there's a light on her. Let's say it together. Zygomatic bone. Yay. And then hair. I don't really care too much about the hair at this stage. But I will get into all that. Okay. So that's going to be, if you have your little paper towel, if you use the clean side of it, don't screw it up. You can just kind of like whoosh, whoosh, and it will clean it off. Okay. Any questions so far? All right, so let's take a picture. You gotta remind me to do this or else I'm gonna forget.
Oh, what was it? If this was a good stage, it's gonna turn out good. When was that stage?
Like right about now, if I can see the drawing, then it usually is gonna be fine. If this looks okay, then I know that at least I have something that's survivable. Okay. It should look like the person. It should not be too dark. There shouldn't be any splotches. And I should be able to see all my values, even at a high key at this stage. Next thing I do is get my Vine charcoal. Okay. Vine charcoal I'm going to give you, it's that Richardson. That's my favorite for this project. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And you want to just, you know, it doesn't really matter how fancy your stick is, the stick of charcoal is. Like this is kind of like all bent and tweaked, and you can actually see the old tree limb right there. And this is what like really scares the bejesus out of people. They're like, he is going really, really dark. Oh my goodness. Lordy Lord, what's happening here? This is craziness. Oh my. I'm feeling all awkward. I don't know what to do. I love you,
Is
sis.
it all the blacks or like the darks?
She has a very high key reflected light. So I'm gonna like be very careful in those areas so I don't lose the drawing. But yeah, I do some crazy bold things, and it's very scary for a lot of students. Oh Lord, what's gonna happen? This is just experience. I know that the Vine charcoal is not very permanent, and it's gonna help to take that charcoal dust, which is very permanent. Charcoal dust is very hard to take off the paper. Blacks. Yes. And I'm going to draw. And if you are not sure where your values are going to be, then just take your time, you know. You can do it in like little pieces, little segments. Okay, but I'm going to be a little bit aggressive just because we want to get through this. This is where I could definitely screw it up.
Don't say that.
Oh no, totally. I completely embrace the fear that I'm having right now. But you know, I think the process of making art is about balancing your anxieties and your fears.
That's true.
And just kind of like trusting your instinct and going with it. But you need to know the materials. Like you need to know how the materials are going to interact. You can see this is where I'm going to start making the hair kind of like do its hair thing. I'm going to like start like putting in funky little shapes.
If you mess up at this part, do you just have to redo everything?
I don't really let you guys redo anything. I want you to work through your struggles. If you do two at the same time,
Yeah.
you're gonna be making the same mistakes on both. So it's like, just work through it slowly. Don't do anything at your house that you're not comfortable doing. Just bring it in, or just ask a question.
It's super risky. I'm just gonna do the whole thing now.
You know, we're gonna have multiple days here to work on it together. If you don't want my help and you just want to bring it in and surprise me, that's totally cool. I just kind of like shrug my shoulders and be like, well, you tried. I'm proud of you.
Just not even gonna show up for the in-person day.
Don't show up for the in-person days, please. Yeah, I put her on the wrong side. Your fault, really, because it was on the right side and then I flipped it. You made me question my own instinct.
Wait. Is it easier to tell when there's Vine on there?
Vine is the telltale sign, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Then why didn't you just do that?
Yeah.
I thought it was like that.
It's my fault. I'm totally messing with it. It's not James's fault. It's been a long time since I've drawn this paper. I take full credit for my own choices.
The DJ makes me like that.
I kind of like that noise. I
No,
know a
you
lot of
don't,
people
dude.
I
It's
do.
crazy.
I mean, I'm
Nasty.
kind of with them.
It's kind of like, I feel like a sense of like,
Feedback, it's feedback.
Actually, it kind of reminds me of those like images that like you
The
move
Superman
and-
mouse pad.
the scratchy images that like you tilt them and it's two different images. It kind of reminds me of that. When you, like, use those images.
so it's like a visual thing for you?
Why do you like it?
It makes me feel very like immediate, and that's
Yeah,
like
it's feedback.
Yeah, it's like visual. It's like a physical feedback. It's like I'm so sure that this is exactly what I want to do, and when it like
You probably love painting them. That's why.
yeah, for sure.
Because of that.
Yes, and there's a lot of painting that's just rendering too.
Yeah.
All right, so that's this third or fourth-ish step. I guess it just depends on how you look at it. We're gonna like take a picture of that really quick. And this scares a lot of people because they're like, you just ruined my drawing
The
show.
best nothing I've
Trust
ever
the
done in my
process.
life.
I'm gonna show you guys
Look at
how to
this.
make.
What? Oh wow.
So I'm gonna show you guys how to make. I'm gonna show you guys how to make a blender tool. So I love those crappy paper towels. It's kind of like my favorite thing, and I just fold them in half and half. You ever played the game of football like on a tabletop? That's kind of what I'm gonna make. Is like a little baby football. Make like little triangles. Okay, and it needs to be really tight. So as I fold it, I push it into itself. Okay, so I'm kind of doing this thing. Okay. See that? Okay. So it's got to look like that. Okay. Does that show in the camera?
Perfect, thank you.
Okay. Thanks, boss. I'm gonna fold this over, and I want it to like be like a really, really tight triangle like that. Okay, or like that. Okay. Focus, focus, focus. And then I take tape. I see I'm holding it really tight. And before I let go, I just take that tape and I tighten it around the edge. And I just want to use one edge of it, so all I need is like one edge.
You can switch edges.
One edge showing like that. Right, and that's gonna look okay. I usually take sandpaper, and I forgot my sandpaper pad in my room, and I'm not gonna go get it.
Oh, I think you have a piece in here.
Oh, do I? Yes.
Not that I was searching.
Whoa.
Awesome, perfect. I usually take sandpaper and I like sand the bottom of this down. Just like perfect. And I make like a soft edge, okay? So that's like my tool. I never, so the other thing I'll get is like a cosmetic cotton swab. Whee! Those are good for details. But both of these, I never use the like the store-bought ones. I mean, this is like free, okay? And this will help me to control my values a lot better. So I turn around and I'm gonna blend this, and I can definitely tell it's on the wrong side of the paper, but that's okay.
With the vine charcoal, were you doing the darkest value?
Yeah, because I'm gonna move the vine charcoal into her secondary values like that.
So is it transitional? Is this what it is? Cool.
Yeah. And then I have this like little point. I can even use the point and like, you know, make sure I get like details in it. I'm gonna try and keep that edge really clean. Okay. So what looked really scary to a lot of people, you'll see how much lighter it gets. Okay. Now, obviously that's just experience. Like I know how far I can push the value and how much I can get out of it. So I don't hesitate as much. Students will hesitate, and that's okay. You're getting to like know your materials.
It's like magic, dude.
It is a little bit. Does anybody know what time it is, just so I can kind of gauge where we're at?
10:14.
Okay, we're good.
So why didn't you put more vine on where the hair, what is this thing? Sideburns hair kind of is?
Right
You
here?
See that shadow? Yeah, the shadow.
I'm gonna move all that around.
Oh, you could go back and forth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if I don't know how to draw, what's gonna happen to my eye? It's gonna disappear. But the eye has to be in shadow. So I'm kind of fulfilling what I need to do. If you don't feel comfortable doing that, don't do that. You know, do it in pieces. Like, you know, maybe do the eyeball first and then find your darker darks and go back and, you know, build it out.
Dude, I remember when I first saw this, it was very nerve-wracking.
It shouldn't be too nerve-wracking, but I know no matter what I do, I feel like it's one of two things. People are like, oh yeah, that's doable. Joe just showed me how to like close that gap. Then the other, side of the fence is like, holy crap, how does he do that? I have no idea. It's like a mystery, it's magic. So, it's not magic by any means. It is possible, and I'm here to help you guys.
Do you have a question?
Yes.
When you move on to this stage, are you fully committed to this stage, or can you move back to the previous stage? Add more with the clock.
You can always go back and forth.
Okay.
Yeah. I just try to minimize that, but you can always go back and forth. You're gonna use the Neuro pencils. I'm gonna show you guys how. You're gonna add charcoal dust if you want to. I mean, I could do it right now because like if I want to like make her cheek right here a little bit darker, I can actually use this to blend out. Notice I'm not putting any new charcoal dust on my pad, but I can use it to kind of like blend out and make that shade a little bit darker. So there's all these transition choices that I can make. I like that her hair is fuzzy with vine charcoal because hair has a very soft edge. And a lot of people like to render hair out very specifically, and I think that's like a very, very bad thing to do. You want to use that soft edge to your advantage so you can have like those little strands that kind of like come out. You see, like I didn't even like draw in like the rest of her shadow. Just kind of like left it. And then sometimes I just go crazy and I just start like making marks, but that's just me. If you don't feel comfortable doing marks, don't make marks. Okay. I'm just gonna push this into the paper and push that into the paper. So that's kind of like what the hair will start to look like. And you can see it starts to looking like hair a little bit. I kind of like leave the lights showing. I don't close them all out. So I'll probably take a picture of this at this stage too. So just picking up that charcoal, pad and just kind of like laying in values where I need them. You can see those little lights that I erased, they haven't been touched, right? I'm very careful with them, okay? Does that make sense to everyone? Yeah. So at this stage, don't lose your shapes. That's the big thing. Like, it should still feel like the model that you're actually drawing. But like, it really is like a drawing technique. Come on out. Right? Not a rendering technique. Right? I'm not trying to like come in and like noodle away. But this is the stage where I begin to noodle. Okay? So now we have like 3 major value sets. Like my Nero pencil, right, is my lay-in. Okay? My charcoal dust, that's charcoal dust. That's not gonna look like dust because I'm using my finger. Alright, is like my first value. Right, and I'll write dust next to this so you know. Alright, and then, so we've only used those 2 things. Vine charcoal, where'd you go? Where's the one that I was using? Oh, thank you. Alright, and vine, you can see the vine is gonna like disappear and it gets so much darker than the charcoal dust. So this is my vine. Right, and that is for second value. And I'm gonna put gray. DK gray, dark gray, okay?
You write in all caps.
Yeah, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. I don't really, I should have been a doctor, really. My writing is horrible. Because my writing is very inconsistent. And then you can see the difference between like charcoal. Right, so charcoal is gonna be what? Your darkest dark. So charcoal, my blacks, okay? So anytime I wanna go back to my grays, right, guess what you're gonna use?
The charcoal is the Ritma?
Yes.
Okay.
And you have 2 values of blacks. I have my HB and my B. Some people will use 3B, it doesn't really matter, okay? And they will be very different in terms of black relationships. All right? So anytime I want to go back to gray, I want to think Nero pencils. And when I say gray, I'm thinking mid-tone transitions. That's what happens in the artist's brain, okay? Anytime I think black, I think darkest shadow shapes, right? I'm thinking charcoal pencils. All right, anytime I think soft edges, I will use, what do you think I'm going to use? Vine, okay? So the hair is going to have a lot of vine, and anytime I need to make it darker, I'll go and pick up the charcoal pencil. Okay, does this make sense to everyone so far? Okay, I will not be able to finish rendering this out by any means because we have like other things to do, like the skull, and I want to get to that. But I'm going to go through every step of the process, and we'll probably like get out like 50% of her eyeball or something like that. Okay, you guys ready? Okay, so I'm gonna pick. I like to start with HB charcoal. Totally don't have my sharpening. I'll try to see if this will sharpen this.
What's the
Yes.
size of the final paper?
It is 40 by 25 off the top of my head, because I think your board is 42 by 28. 40 by 26. Yes. First thing I want to do is I always pick up my HB charcoal. Okay, I do not go to B or 3B or anything like that, and do not ever use the Conte Prismacolor, the Conte charcoal, the Pierre Noir. The Conte's pencils will not erase. So if you feel like you're confident you know exactly where a line goes, go crazy. But I will show you. They're beautiful to draw with, but not the best thing to like render with. So here is my Conte pencil, right? Really nice line. Now let's try to erase it. With an electric eraser, it will always be there, okay?
Wow.
So if you make a mistake with this pencil, I'm sorry, but you were screwed. But if I know where like a line is, if I know where a line is, I'm gonna do this just to torture you guys. If I know where a line is, I can go in and like make it really dark with this pencil, and that's totally fine, okay? So I don't use it other than that. I really want like a really hard edge, like on these
Is that the
sleeves.
step though? Is that the next step?
No, I was saying don't use that because that says HB on it.
Okay.
It says HB charcoal on it, but it is
never
not.
gonna use that.
It is
Just 'cause of
not.
that noise.
It is not the HB Ritmo charcoal. Okay, which is much softer, much more resilient. All right, make sure your hand is on something. Okay, I'm gonna look at her darks. I will say, yeah, there's a dark in her hair right here. And you're gonna notice, am I drawing fast or slow? So the slower I go, what am I like implying? More what?
Rendering.
More detail, more rendering.
Is it, so now we're on rendering stage.
Now we're on the rendering stage.
Okay. Can we use
I have switched from my drawing hat
Ritmo?
to my rendering hat.
It's
And-
the HP.
It is my HP.
Okay.
One more time, right? Anybody else have a question about that?
So, but then you don't jump from the dark. You go a little bit dark, then super dark.
I go a little bit dark because I never really draw super dark because there are really no blacks on the human form, but that's a whole nother theory. I think like it's all comparative dark. This will look black in relationship to the white of the paper. Do I need to go like any darker than that? Not really.
Cool. So just chill with the HB.
Chill with your HB. I've used the 3B only when I'm doing black clothing. That's to be honest, because it absorbs value, right? Or like maybe your hair, because it's super black. My hair is not super black anymore. It's dying and getting gray. But you know, like it all just depends. So if I am not sure, like this is, I should probably point this out. If I am not sure where the black goes, I will grab my Nero pencil again and I will redraw all those shapes. Now, why would I do that? What can the Nero pencil do that the charcoal pencil will not do as readily? Erase. That's it. So if I'm not sure and I want to be able to erase, I can come in here and really lightly draw with a Nero pencil. If I do not draw lightly with a Nero pencil and I get really heavy and try to make it darker with the Nero's never going to get dark. It's always going to be like gray.
Are you using a 3?
I'm using the 4. Yeah.
4?
I think a 4. I just picked up whatever's. It's 5. Yeah.
I don't think I've ever touched a 4.
I don't really care what pencil it is, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I'm just picking up a Nero because I know I can erase it if I make a mistake. And you're gonna notice, like, I'm not trying to like erase out her eyeball. I'm trying to make her eye darker so that the light in her eye is actually gonna look lighter, right? I'm thinking in the inverse. I'm trying to minimize how much erasing I actually need to do.
Why not to damage the paper?
No, it just actually makes the process a lot more cohesive. It's gonna look like a much more completed drawing if I don't have to like add every mark I make. Her face will sit on the surface like it's sculpted a little bit more, if that makes any sense.
If it's not as erased?
Yeah, I know there's like a high level idea, but it is like, it does make a difference.
So you're doing this now to like,
Show you guys like, hey, I don't know exactly where that eye is, so I'm just working
and
it
then
out
do
with
you
my
go
pencil.
back in with the Ritmo?
I was just gonna do that. Okay, sure. And then I can go back in. Her eye looks sleepy in my drawing a little bit. I'm not sure what's wrong, but I'm just gonna like leave it. I can try and fix it. I think it's the angle that I drew the eyelid in.
Do you blend this Ritmo? No, right? Not very little.
I will, because I want the eyeball to be pretty soft. And if I don't want to use as much of it, I'll just draw really light on the surface. I don't need to like always like use it with such impact. This is the fun stage. What are you?
Says it while you're on it. This is the fun stage.
This is the fun stage. Obviously.
The fun being like, this is the stage where you can definitely like mess it up for sure.
Yeah, high risk.
It is a high risk stage. it is a stage where you have to slow down and you have to pay a lot of attention, but once you get those shapes in, and I think there's a couple of questions that's always asked, like, do you work on the whole drawing at once? I don't. I work my way down, right? I lay in the whole drawing in Nero, so I have it, so I can see exactly what it looks like. But I'll only build up the values in one section at a time, so I can kind of make sure that these values make sense for the rest of the drawing.
Okay, wait. Do you, so you were just at the eye, and then you jumped to the top of the ear.
I always move
But
around.
now you're going back. You want that?
Yes, I always move
Okay.
around.
Don't like hyperfixate on one side.
Yeah, I always move around. And moving around kind of helps me to like not, yeah, I mean, I guess overly fixate, not make mistakes in like a specific area either.
Why would overly fixating make you make a mistake?
Because you forget to compare, so like a
Fair.
proportions can get out of whack
Jump around.
because you think that the shape that you're actually drawing is right, and it's actually very wrong, maybe. It's like I have no idea where her eyeball is.
I was just gonna ask you how you know where it is.
I just have to like, I remap it.
Make it up.
I go through the shadow shape,
Big to small.
I kind of like redraw it. And this is where I would have, you know, like said, hey, if you're not sure about like how to do this, or if you're not sure about your drawing skills, just like draw in the eye separate when you're doing the vine charcoal.
With the vine charcoal or with
Mm-hmm.
the?
Yeah, and just kind of like, you know, make that area darker if that's what you want. I could have easily done that, but I was just like cutting corners. Okay, so that's kind of like how I would lay in the shapes. And I'll take a picture of this just so you guys can see. Don't forget to use the vine charcoal if you lose your drawing. It's kind of annoying that I use the wrong side of the paper because
What's the biggest disadvantage of using the wrong side of the paper?
I can't get these hard edges in as cleanly, and it creates this like fuzzy grain. Yeah.
That makes so much sense.
You just got to work with it. It just takes a little bit longer. And I'm lazy. I don't want to like work longer. I want to work fast. Yeah. Maybe it's the opposite of lazy. I want to work fast, and it forces me to like go back and like correct things over and over and over again. Like just annoying a little bit.
See that forming? Like the darkness. That's falling.
And then there's her nostril, so I can go in. And like find that nostril. And then come in, do this other side of the nose. And every time I do this demo, every photo is just dictating like the demo. So every demo is a little bit different. Because it really just depends on like what the photo reference needs. So, just so you know. Go and recheck. And I just do this to the whole thing. I'm like redrawing everything. Okay. I like light in the eyes, so I will even like just smash like a little highlight just right there, just so it's like, when I say highlight, it doesn't have to be like white, just something that shows like her value. Yeah. So you don't always have to follow everything that's in your photo reference by any means. And a lot of young artists get like obsessed with eyelashes. You'll notice I don't really care. The eyelashes are like irrelevant. I'm gonna pick up a number 3. What was that?
Oh my god.
What
I said
was
what
that?
and yawn at the same time. Dude, the yawning is picking up right now. You gotta move faster.
I'm not.
Can you do a silly voice?
Me?
Yeah, do some silly voices.
It's
dude.
too early right now. I'm like, think the second class kind of kicked the humor out of me.
Yeah, jingle your keys for us. Wake us up.
You really don't like that other class, Joe.
You know, I don't have a preference. Like, I don't like hate or like, but they just like suck the life out of me.
Yeah, like last year you were way more silly goosey.
Goose.
I don't know what happened.
Silly goose.
I'm liking this show more, to be honest.
Oh, thanks. Oh my goodness. A lot more seriousness happening in my life lately. I don't know what to say. So I have a 2H pencil. The only time I'll ever pick it up is when I have these like really light values. So this is what I wanted to show you guys. And if I'm trying to like make like mid-tones, because it is cooler, I don't want it to combine too much with the graphite. But I can use it just to kind of like make transitional values.
Which pencil is this again?
2H.
Okay.
It's really the only one I'll really use. And then I'll correct like edges and stuff if I see them. Come in. And create like value transitions. I do it very quick. And then if you're like good with your hands, which hopefully you all are, I can really lightly,
Is that with the side with the charcoal? Or
with the
without?
side with the charcoal, just kind of like carefully like caress that side, I guess. We all need a little bit of love, right? It's okay to caress. It's okay. So with the eye right here, she's got a lot of information underneath that eye, and I'm trying to like bring it up to like what I want it to look like when it's finished. I will use my number 4, Nero pencil. Number 4. And I want that edge to be really, really clean. And this is where I will use those Neros. It's like when I'm making like gray value detail marks. And I know you can't see it, but I'm just using like really, really subtle lines.
Like when you want to get super specific and detailed, do you prefer
Nero?
the Nero more?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
She's got like this double socket. So I'm just gonna like draw in just some of those other values.
And can you draw with Nero on top of?
That's what I'm doing.
charcoal?
I mean, it is right now on top of charcoal.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Okay. I'm just
You're
making
making
sure.
stuff up.
Just making sure that we're on the same page.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, is there anything specific you guys want me to go over before I move to like bones and we take a little bit of a break? Does this help to clarify all the steps?
Yeah.
Okay. For those of you that,
For the eye, are you gonna use the kneaded a little bit, like the eyeball on the dark side? You wouldn't. You would just make the other parts darker.
Yeah, as soon as I do that, you're gonna see kind of how, and I am gonna do that right now. And I will actually get a little bit of the hair in as well, just so everyone can kind of see. So her ear comes up and around. It stops right there. Okay. Okay, so I want that, and then. Okay. So I'll take one more picture, 2 steps. Okay, other side, I'm gonna jump into my HB. Cool. I'm actually gonna use a 2B. I want it to be a little darker. Make sure it's sharp. You know, once this charcoal goes on the surface, it's not gonna come off, so I don't wanna make a mistake. So that's why you wanna draw it in with that Nero first if you don't know exactly where you're drawing. Now I'm gonna pick a not HP, I mean. I know, Amanda, I'm boring. I'm sorry.
So boring.
Everyone's like yawning on me. So you started Yivos?
What?
Yeah?
I was sleeping. I don't know.
What? I know. Touche, touche. All right, so I start pretty loose. I'm gonna grab the cotton swamp this time. And I'm gonna really push that value into the paper. And because that eye socket is in shadow, it should be fairly soft. So it's okay if I have those soft edges, it's actually to my advantage. And then I can come in and like define those edges a little bit later. Okay, so you can see I'm gonna like build from like behind, I guess, like from the background to the foreground. That's kind of like how I think about it, if that makes sense. She does have a little highlight right here. It's just like right there. And this is a trick. I will take my 2H pencil and just like smooth out that value.
Can you also do that on the top of the eyelid, like underneath the brow?
I mean, I could do it anywhere. Like I could actually do it right here. And it will close that reflected light and you won't tell. You know, but you can also do it with a Nero pencil. And I think it would work better.
So that grain is just because there's like
The grain
light inside.
Yeah, it's also because it's the wrong side of the paper. It's a little grainy.
Cool.
Yeah. And not many people say like quote unquote wrong side of the paper. There is no wrong side of the paper. It's just not the smoother side. So it's gonna hold grain a little bit differently. So you can see how I'm just using like the Nero to close those like value gaps. And I'm gonna use like a clean piece of the paper towel and just blend it out. And that way I can kind of like build those values out, okay? And I can make them darker or lighter in a much more controlled fashion. And then I'll work on her hair and then we will like jump into the second part of the demo. The anatomy should be a lot quicker. How are we on time?
10.
Okay, so we have about an hour. So we'll take a break in about 5, like a 15-minute, and then we'll come back and we'll finish up. So you see how I'm like leaving the gaps of like value in between the hair. It's like super vital to making hair feel realistic. It's not drawing in the lights, it's actually leaving the lights out. It's kind of how I think about it. And then there's always flyaways in here, so don't forget to like just use your Nero pencil and just kind of like draw some flyaways. Flyaways. If you don't know what those are, for all the boys out there, those are like the little pieces of hair. I did not know what flyaways were until I had girls. So these are all those little lines that kind of come out of the hair. I use the Nero pencil. They should not be black, they should be gray. Why should they be gray? Anyone tell me? They're diffusing the light. They're not actually at full density. And your hair is slightly transparent. So I'll take those values and just kind of like push them in. Right. And if you have an electric eraser, this is like a good thing to use it for. Mine's like running out of battery. That sometimes. I can come in and with a really sharp edge, I can just like make some of these highlights. It's not the sharpest edge right now, but you can kind of see how I can push some of that out. Okay, so it doesn't take too much work to do hair.
I think she needs eyelashes.
It just takes like specificity. I think that's like the most important thing. And then edges play a really important role. So like going in and defining your hard edges, muy importante. I will do that with like my darkest dark. So this is like equivalent to like a 3B charcoal that you guys have that's on your list. And you can see how much darker this will be. I try not to touch this once I draw it in. It's not about blending at this stage. I just want to get like information in. Amanda's gonna pass out. I'm sorry, Amanda. I know, I'm bored.
Share the caffeine.
There's a little bit of dark right there. All right, and you can kind of see like the different value relationships. Obviously, there's still a lot more work to do, but I think that's kind of enough to get you guys. Does everyone feel comfortable with what I'm doing? Yeah. Okay. All right, take one last picture. And then that's the value. All right, let's take a break. We'll do 10. We'll come. So we have these lights. I expect you guys to grab a skull and pass it around when you're ready and take pictures on your phones and like prep your work. But like I would look at Kelsey and like ultimately I'm gonna like point the skull in the exact same direction she's facing for me, looking at her in the exact same way, okay? Mm-hmm. It's probably gonna be a little bit different for you guys because it's gonna be like out here, kind of looks like that. But for me, it's like this, okay? That's key. The other thing I want to do is look at lighting. So lighting is coming from here, and it all starts like right here. If I can see it on her noggin, I'll be able to see it on her arms and everything else, okay? So this is kind of an important concept. Does that make sense to everyone? Mm-hmm. If you don't have good lighting on your model, then you're gonna need to find like bad lighting on your skull too, right? It needs to kind of match. I'm just gonna take 2 sheets of tape, 2 pieces of tape, not sheets of tape, and stick that Duralar right on top. And you can see when it's brand new, you can see right through it, okay? Ultimately, what I want to see. I don't want this Duralar to move around underneath because it will pick up charcoal, okay? So, I have workable fixative. I'm not going to spray it in class, but if you want to spray fix it, if your drawing is completely done, spray fix it really lightly outside, okay? Let it sit outside for 20 minutes or do it at home. And then you can bring it in and then you can tape your Duralar to it. And the Duralar is the exact same size as your paper, okay? Good so far? Okay. Duralar is really resilient. So I just go straight at it with a graphite pencil, okay? Why? Because I can erase it, right? It's very easy to use. So I'm gonna make sure it's tight to the drawing, and I'm not worried about light right now. I'm gonna like hold it up, and I'm gonna draw right around my drawing, and I'm gonna go right to the edge of her skull, okay? So you guys can actually see what I'm doing. And I'm gonna come back up and around and cross over. And now this is like a drawing skill. That means that I have to draw exactly what I think I see because I am not copying a photo. Her jawline is gonna be right here. And her skull is gonna stop right. You notice the skull stops right at the ear, right? So it's gonna come right back, and it's gonna come down, okay? So that is how I'm gonna start my little drawing. Okay, can you guys see that? Yeah. I'm gonna come in, and I'm gonna draw right through her center line. And I wanna go right down that chin bone. did not need to erase. There you go. This is a problem with having like too many surfaces. I move everything. Okay. And kneaded eraser is your friend on this paper. That's all you really need. You don't need anything else. I wasn't trying to be ironic, but yes. And I'm gonna point this skull. I gotta hold it out here so you guys can see what I'm drawing. My arm might start jittering because it's heavy.
It's just Shakespeare right now.
It is Shakespeare.
This stands
To be or not to be. Alright. I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna just draw right through her eye line. And I'm gonna find those sockets. And I wanna follow her eye sockets. These are not her eye sockets, this is just the sculpt.
Do you want us to print out the reference for the skull too?
I mean, you could have it on your phone. It's up to you what you want to do with it. If you're going to do it in class and you need my help, I don't want me looking at your phone. But it's up to you. Foreshortening happening to her ear is pretty quick. And then this is the way I kind of do it. I kind of like lay down like really major landmarks very fast. Her jawline's going to come up. Boy, this is heavy. I have to see something and then I can connect those dots.
So you're drawing in the lighting too, simultaneously a little bit?
No,
You're just helping it to?
I'm like just drawing in my center lines right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You'll see, like, I'm very aggressive when I draw on this paper. Like, I don't really, everything can be erased. Is like the teeth. You're gonna notice, like, especially on the one of my daughter, like, I don't really want you guys to draw the individual teeth. What I want to see are where the teeth lie in space. So I just kind of like make marks, and then I'll separate out like a couple of teeth. I'm not going to do it for this demo. It's going to take way too long. Okay, and I really want, it's really a demo about materials more than anything else. I want you guys to get familiar with like how to draw using these materials.
Finally some graphite.
Okay, so graphite pencil, that's all I need. First thing I'm going to pick up is my Vine charcoal, ironically. And I'm just going to like smash in all those values. And you're going to see with the Vine charcoal that it doesn't really stick to the surface. It will wipe completely off. Everyone see that? Okay. So you got to be a little careful with it. And I'm going to use something else in combination with the Vine to make sure that it sticks. But the Vine charcoal is great for getting values in. A little highlight here. So this is how like messy I get. So what I'm basically saying is don't be too fragile with your drawing. It's okay. See her shadow when it comes up and around her jaw, and then it comes into her chin. So I want to recreate that. And then underneath her cheek right here has a little bit of a shadow. Even though it's not there, it's going to catch on the skull, because the skull has a slightly different anatomical. All right, and then I'm just going to smash it in. And you're going to see the graphite pencil will still stay, which is kind of great. So I'm not as like lovey-dovey with the Duralar, because like literally I can wipe it off with my finger, okay? So you got to be aware it is like much more like of a fighting material, and that's why I just use it for this like early stage. I'm gonna just use my fingers across the whole thing really. Okay, and then the kneaded eraser. The wonderful thing about this surface is you will always be able to get back to white. But because the Duralar is that like funky gray, right, that white is always going to be a little bit off, and that's why I brought my white so I can show you how I'll like indicate them. I have to take a picture of this so you guys can see it. Did I take a picture of the drawing of the skull? I hope. Okay. Photo, please. Come on. Why the magnet gets stuck.
I want like a notebook of this stuff.
A what?
Notebook, just of Duralar, just to draw.
I mean, I can give you like, I can cut.
Oh,
this.
so it's just like that too. Perfect.
Yeah, it comes in smaller
Yeah.
packs.
Cool.
Comes even smaller than that. If you want, you just grab it from the art store. All right. So I want to draw in my shapes again. I'm going to go in with my Nero, right? And hard edges are your friend. So you want to always define your hard edges first. And the Nero is going to get darker. I'm going to use the 3D with the. I was using 3D. It's going to get darker with the vine charcoal underneath it. It is going to combine with that surface. So Nero, very important. Definitely like a heavy use tool. It wants to use wax pencils. I want to see those hard edges, so I'm going to really define those edges in my drawing. So it is good to like have like a clear photograph, so you can kind of slow down and just really pick on those shapes. I was using that one. It's gonna look a little piggy, so I want to make sure I don't leave that like shape too wide.
So you're catering like the sculptor face a
Uh-huh.
little bit?
Yeah, I mean 100%.
Wow.
I'm adapting like the orbits and the nasal bones to like her actual nose. And this is why we have this, right? So I can flip it. I'm gonna see like exactly where she is. But I already did that when I was drawing. Her orbit goes a little bit higher. And hard edge. Okay, I'm gonna rush through this a little bit, just because I want to get to the materials part of it. Okay, eye socket's never really fully dark, right? Kind of has like a little darker section at the top. I pick up this carbon pencil. It is also like a wax pencil, but it's like a very, very dark wax pencil. And I'm gonna push those shadow shapes towards the tops of the eye sockets. Okay. All right, back to the Nero. I'm gonna come in, I'm gonna define the spaces.
So can we can we only start the Duralar when our charcoal piece underneath is finished?
I would recommend it.
Okay.
You can do it earlier. You definitely want your drawing there at least.
Mm-hmm.
But I would recommend starting it when you're done. But if you want to do it earlier, you can. I'm not gonna like be a dictator by any means.
Does one take longer than the other, or are they about the same?
Oh no, this drawing is definitely gonna take you longer than this one. But I think it just depends. It depends on how comfortable you are drawing anatomy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Right now I'm just showing you the technical stuff, but you can see on her, like I actually started drawing her muscles in.
Do you want us to do that?
Yeah, the whole thing is a muscular drawing.
Oh yeah, sorry. Forgot about that one. Cool. I just thought it was a skeleton. I didn't really do it.
The only part of the skeleton that you're drawing is
The skull.
this.
No, I just thought it was a skull.
That would be nice.
Cool.
Yeah.
The skull.
Core shadows play a really important role in anatomy of the skull, so make sure that you spend time to like draw them in. Okay, so obviously I'm not going to get this whole thing in. We just don't have enough time. This would be like a 4-hour demo, and you guys would want to kill yourselves by the time it was over. So please stop drawing, Joe. It's too much. It's too much. You're killing me. I'm just gonna yawn.
I was finishing the homework.
Mhm.
That's not it.
Did you say you're finishing your homework
Yeah.
for another class?
No, last night.
Mm.
You know how it is.
No, I don't. Really.
What?
You too.
Oh,
Come on.
You know you're wrong.
Oh, you mean you guys? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Trust me, I know. This has been a semester of me just letting it go. Just like, all right, I
Doc,
give
you
up.
said that last semester.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, I can't like if I was to hold on to everyone's anxiety over their art and procrastination, I would die. Like I would die. That anxiety would just roll over into me, and I would like not be able to function. So I'm just like, yeah, whatever, it's all good. I try and go with the flow. Don't get me wrong, I'm gonna still tell you you need to turn your stuff in on time, but at the end of the day, I know what the reality is. I can only expect so much.
Do you have any tips for getting over that?
Yeah, just watch your schedule.
Nice.
I mean, it's like super core important is just to like pay attention to like the schedule.
Just like trick yourself to like, oh, it's earlier.
I've tried.
Like panic.
I literally had,
Adrenaline shot.
for the arms, I told her to tell me whatever date it was due, and I still didn't do it then because I knew she was lying to me.
The trick is to start the very first day.
Mm-hmm.
I started yesterday. It's okay.
I don't need to hear all these, you guys. This is like really bumming me out, yo.
So we're here for.
Thanks. Alright, so that's kind of where I would start the skull. Okay. And then I would come in, and you can kind of see like it's still very drawn. Everyone see that? Right. To get to the stage where it starts like looking smoother, I would come in and I would use my little toys. Right. I would start like pushing some of these values in, smoothing them out. You can use a graphite pencil. Really, it's a lot of the Nero and a lot of the Vine charcoal. You don't need charcoal dust on this. It's not going to do anything. It's not going to go anywhere. All right, and the last but not least is the white. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually used to teach it in this class. We taught it for 2 semesters, and then COVID happened. Yeah.
Oh.
What
So
kind
then
of
you
brush are you
choose
using?
just the drawing.
I'm just using any like acrylic-based brush. Yeah, soft brush, and it has to be like a point, right? And I'm actually looking at her head. I'm not looking at the skull, right? And I'm trying to like find the same light sources. And you're gonna see like I draw, like I paint it in linear format. Like I don't want to like draw like, I actually want to imagine like I am drawing it. I don't want to paint it like a painter. And the wider the lines get, right, the lighter that transition value is going to be. There's going to be a really, really intense light on her nose. So it's just a very little water. And just very very little ink. It doesn't really take that much ink to get these whites like really strong.
And we're doing this? We're doing this as well?
You can. It's an option if you want to get whites in there. You can do it without the whites, but I'm just showing you. I'm actually doing this really fast too, but I would not be doing it this fast in reality.
At this stage, is this like a don't go back stage? You don't want to rub in the whites with the charcoal?
I mean, Duralar is pretty resilient, so like, here are the lights, here are the darks, right? If I don't like it, I can take, because it's plastic, water and literally just wipe it off. And it will wipe off my drawing too, but I can redo that drawing. But the Duralar is a plastic surface. Which is why at the end of the whole drawing, I would spray fix the Duralar as well. That's why mine looks a little shiny. Because I do want it to be a little bit more resilient, so it's not just coming off if I like accidentally wipe it across something. You can see my paint is actually mixing with the charcoal underneath because I did not clean it right there. Okay, and there's really no other highlights, so I think that would be it. There's like one more right here on the edge of the form. Okay, but that's where I want to like put most of my focus. Okay, so you're not gonna be able to get like super black blacks unless you do this last thing. And this is what I was kind of trying to figure out last week. Ink. I just use a pen, okay? I use a micron pen. Sharpie will also work. Ballpoint pen will not work. It has to be a pen that like releases ink through the vessel. And if I want to get like super blacks, like in the eye socket, for instance, what I did was just like threw it in really quick, okay? And I just grabbed my Nero pencil and I blended it with my Nero.
While the ink is wet?
While it's wet.
Did you invent this?
I just mess around with stuff until it works for me. So I don't know if it's invention, but I
Did you
just...
patent it?
No.
Yeah, you gotta do that.
But that's how I figured out like how to get it darker. Okay? And it works with Sharpie too. I don't think I packed my Sharpie. So like if these blacks weren't getting black enough, I just grabbed a micron pen. I know it's not in your supply list, but I apologize. It's the first time I had to do this in a while. So any ink pen, you guys should all have something like this at home anyway. We do have Sharpies here. You can try it with a Sharpie too. And it will get like about 2 or 3 values darker than the create a color around it, okay? Does everyone kind of see that? I'm trying to get anatomy in. Graphite pencil, right? First thing I want to do is get her bones in. She's got like clavicle here, she's got a clavicle here, right? I want to make sure that I'm drawing from the bony landmark, right, down to here, and I will just look at my anatomy book. I don't have to look at my anatomy book, but you should all look at your anatomy book and just draw where her anatomy is going to go, right? So she's going to have like another sternocleidomastoid muscle coming out like right here. It's going to be a little separation right here. And that's how I will lay it in, right? Trapezius is coming down. And you notice, am I just making this up or am I following something? What am I following? I'm talking like I'm actually following. I know I'm making it up, all right? I've done this enough times. But I'm following her anatomy, okay? And I think that's what's like super important. First thing I do is I just use a just regular pencil and just lay out all of her anatomical landmarks. Her sternum is gonna be right here, right? I know her pectoralis major is gonna leave a little gap where the clavicle is. So the bone ends up showing because of that space, right? Sternum, sternum, sternum. Right, it's gonna come up and over, and then the deltoid's gonna be like right here, and it's gonna connect to the bottom, right? So I can start like mapping all this stuff out, okay? And when I say I want to like show, here's your clavicle, clavicle, clavicle. Okay. When I say I want to start showing anatomical landmarks, what I'm looking for are this striations of the muscles. Right? I'm just going to do this with a pencil, but at the end of the day, I don't want to do this with a pencil. I want to use the Nero so it's like the same value as the drawing. Okay, so I want those muscle striations to be moving in the direction of the form, but then they also have to fall in value, right? And this is what I wanted to show you guys. So the very first thing that I will do is throw the same shadow that I see on my drawing over everything that is in shadow. Why? Why would I want to do that?
So it's consistent.
So it's consistent, right? As soon as I do that, it blocks in her whole torso, so it's following that shadow shape. If I want. You don't have to, but if you want to keep that light logic, I would definitely use a light logic for the skull. But if you want to feel that light logic for the anatomy, then I can come in and I can start to like draw in the shadows on top of my anatomy. So there's the striations of that sternocleidomastoid muscle. There's where the muscle was. I can still see my drawing underneath. Right, so now I'm drawing the striations of the muscles here, and they're happening in shadow, right? And when I draw them here, they're happening in light. So it's not about rendering every muscle group, right? It's about thinking smart and on your toes. How can I make this feel like this side is in light and this side is in value? And if I just like start with a value mass, all of a sudden it feels like that's in light, okay, and shadow. Does that make sense? It's a very easy solution. Yes?
So for fingers is bones?
Fingers are planes. Remember we
Okay,
talked
no
about
bones.
these will be drawn like squares. All right. And ellipses, right? So if I have like, right, a shadow coming, like if my light's doing this, all this is gonna be in shadow.
Feet also plane?
Uh-huh. Same thing as your homework assignment.
Cool.
Okay? Does that make sense to everyone? You're good, you can stop it.